Giving yourself. In Psalm 108, David is rejoicing with his whole being. I want my whole being to rejoice in the Lord. That's not a token prayer or tossing off a thanks. He's given himself over to praising God. David knows that man can't save. That includes himself. But he also knows that with God there is victory. He says, "With God we shall do valiantly. It is He who will tread down our foes." It is God who defeats our enemies. We call on Him for help and give thanks. Those are our jobs. In Psalm 109, David is giving himself over to prayer. Now, his prayer starts out as asking God to get his attackers, listing for God all the things he wants to happen to them. I have a hard time finding anything redeeming in that, except that he was praying for God to take vengeance and wasn't trying to get his enemies on his own. He was leaving it in God's hands, which is the right thing to do. Then he starts to pray for himself. Meditating on our problems is kind of like meditating on the works of Satan instead of on the works of God. At the very least, it's putting our eyes on the things of this world instead of on God. Looking at ourselves is a way to get depressed. In prayer, we can certainly pour out our hearts to God, but then we need to make sure we get our eyes on Jesus. He's the light in our eyes. One good thing David does say is, "I am poor and needy." David was a king. He was not poor, nor lacked anything he needed. Even when he was fleeing from Saul, he was still a leader with men who would do anything to make sure he had what he wanted, let alone needed. But David is recognizing what we all need to recognize. We are poor and needy, poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We need to be poor before God to inherit the kingdom. We can't come to Him not needing anything. We want to be empty of ourselves so that we can be filled with God. God hears the cries of the needy. He rescues the needy. He meets every need. If we want God to come and help us, we need to need Him.